Before you start this video, I would like you guys to hit that like button and share this video because it helps the viewership and it helps the algorithm. Also, if you've been missing out on daily videos, you're not receiving notifications, hit the bell button because I post very frequently. Sometimes people don't get notifications. And with that said, enjoy. So, you want to know about graveyard magic? Well, I must state this, that graveyard magic is different from cemetery magic. Because when we're talking about graveyard magic, graveyards are separate from cemeteries. Why? Because graveyards are usually unkept. They're not taken care of, they're neglected. And most of the time, when you're dealing with graveyards, nobody usually goes there to pay their respects. So you're dealing with a lot of lonely souls. Versus a cemetery is pretty much kept together. You have people that go there daily. Where per se, the graveyard are usually associated with those that have been forgotten. When people go to graveyards to do magic, it's never for anything good. Most of the time, let me not say never, let's just say most of the time, when people go to graveyards, they're looking to do malicious workings. Graveyard magic can be done in a fashion to gain the assistance of the dead or to discard whatever magical workings that you've put together. But before I progress further into this, I must say this, that you have to be very respectful of the graveyard. Though these souls may have been forgotten, nobody comes to pay respects to them. You have to understand that these ghosts want their place to be respected. So don't go to a graveyard and leave your mess, leave your garbage. This is how you end up with problems. Discarding things where they're not supposed to be. This is how you end up with problems. In Vodou, we say the first person buried in the cemetery is Baon Samedi. The second person who is buried in the cemetery is Maman Brigitte. I know a lot of people are going to copy this and put it in their videos, and as though they basically came up with this. So listen, for you guys that's going to watch this video, if you're going to copy that from me, please state where you got it from. And for you writers, you book authors, listen. If you're going to copy my content, please state that LeonardElmera said that as your quote, who you're quoting from. But listen, what does this mean? This means the first man and woman buried in the cemetery is the controller and ruler of the cemetery. Just as if you have certain goetic spirits, you know that if there is a pecking order, where there are certain spirits that are in charge of lesser spirits. So this is how the graveyard works. Now, the graveyard, when borrowing or utilizing whatever item you get from the graveyard, you have to pay for it. When I say pay for it, it can be whatever the spirit demands. I've met different people that say leave pennies, but how do you know if that spirit wants money? You have to know what that spirit wants before you take anything that belongs to that graveyard. Doing so can result in a lot of calamities. Going back to discarding magical workings. Just because it's a graveyard doesn't mean that you can bury whatever you desire in the graveyard. I remember there was this Haitian Mambo. She went to a graveyard to discard some work. And when she left the graveyard, she got into a very dangerous accident. She was hospitalized after she left the graveyard. Why? She buried some work that the spirit did not want in the graveyard. I know there's a lot of traditional people from traditions in America that's watching my video. And I want to say this. It's not about cultural practices. It's about what works and what doesn't. So you have to use prudence to know outside of cultural lines, is this what the spirit wants? A lot of people, they get into a lot of confusion and difficulty because they get into this separatism, they get into theories, they get into dogma, they get into cultural practices instead of dealing with what is and what's not, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Graveyards can assist you in getting rid of your problems. If you have opposition, if you have rivals, a graveyard can assist you in getting rid of these problems. But if you want the assistance of the dead, you have to approach the dead with respect.